Dude, it's been quite some time since we've had a chance to chit chat here.
I know it's funny about that is that there was a time for a good couple years where I would see you 4 nights a week. And I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
And then you go.
That's true. Since we met, we've pretty much been on like a schedule.
Because I never missed class.
It's through jiu-jitsu.
Through jiu-jitsu, I would never miss class. I'd come 4 nights a week. So I would see you 4 nights a week, and then we go a year or so and we don't see each other. But we do text.
Oh, yeah.
We text and we communicate in some of the newfangled ways. The Facebook Messenger seems to work well for us.
Facebook Messenger is money because you get that little... It's not always accurate, though, because it'll show that you're online.
Wait a minute, are you saying that stuff on Facebook's not always accurate?
Fake news.
Mind blown. Mind blown.
I know. It tells me that.
Even down to Messenger, there's inaccuracies on Facebook.
I know. And it breaks my heart because I'll see like the green light. Oh, Kirky's available. Let me go send him a little dirty joke.
And doesn't that stuff mess with you too when you see that it's been delivered and then you don't see him writing back and you're like, wait a minute, we were just having this what's going on now? But then the shoes flip and it happens to you and you're in a conversation, but then something comes up. And they've sent you a message and they're waiting for your reply, but you're like, I can't give it right now for whatever reason. Like, okay, I got to remember this the next time it happens to me.
And meanwhile, on the other side, you're looking at it and like, I can't concentrate on the thing I need to be doing because I'm concentrating on what's he going to say to that. Because I know that's a good one. That's a good one. Kirky will appreciate that one.
And then when you don't get that answer back right away, what the first thing that comes to my head is, oh my God, did I go too far? Did I go too far? Did I say something here because
I don't have that with you. In all fairness,
no, I don't really have that with you.
Other people.
I think in the early days, maybe before it really figured it out, but not anymore. No.
Yeah, my go-to is that could come across because context gets lost in text. So every now and then you gotta let me send a little laughy emoji or something.
And then my OCD kicks in. That's all I can think about is, oh my God, I know I went over the top there.
I offended him.
Right.
Oh man. So, Kirk, what have you been up to these days, man? So, since we're not seeing each other on this regularly scheduled thing, you're a man of many adventures. You're like the true man of mystery or man of adventure.
All by design.
Because you're a writer, multi-time Daytime Emmy award-winning writer.
3 to be exact.
3? Mm-hmm. But who's counting?
There's one for each of the kids when I go. I can leave one to each of the kids at this point. So I'm going for 4 this year.
4. Wait. You have
then Ty gets 1.
Oh, right on. Okay, gotcha. I just found out you had a YouTube channel for a long time.
Yeah, wow.
This predates our relationship.
It sure does.
By years, because you showed me a clip of it. I'm like, whoa.
So we got to put this in context a little bit. As you know, one of my passions, and actually something that I've actually used to make money with, is my passion and my love of food. So just to give some context to the background here, I'm not a formally trained chef. I grew up as a weird... No. I've had mentors. I've had chef mentors, legit chef mentors, but I've never been to cooking school. My school was trial and error, and just the love of it. I've been cooking ever since I was a little kid, and I'm lucky enough to grow up in a family that appreciated food, that's a whole conversation we can get into because that's something that I think
I do want to get into that.
Well, let's remember that because I think it's something that's sort of lost right now. But at any rate, as a young kid, I started cooking. And then probably around the time I got into college, it became part of my identity because I was like the dude who could make like really good chicken wings and supply it to people like a dealer, and listen.
So that made you happy. You were cool in that lane.
There is I'm sort of built like that the idea of being in service is something that's always sort of, I think, made me happy. To me, it gives me value. And I don't know if that says something good about me or bad, not so sure. But I really do like being in service. And then at the same time, too, just the idea of preparing food. There's so much about it. I could talk about that for a long time. But anyway, so I've done many things throughout my life to make money off of food. Everything from cook in restaurants to I've done private chef work, catering. I've done food writing. And right around the time of where YouTube just started kind of happening. And this is before anybody ever monetized it or figured out what to do with it. I mean, basically you were seeing like, videos of people's cats, things like that.
Right.
Guy that I'd worked with in this project, which was an online magazine that I was a food writer for, they were also embedded in videos into my articles, and I would be the star of those videos. So I had all these videos. He approaches me and he says, "What do you say we like start a YouTube channel and use some of that as content, and we can create some of our own and we'll put it out there?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! Are you kidding me?" It's like this is finally a way for me to kind of get this stuff out there where the masses can see it. I'm confident in myself. I know I'm good at this, and now I'm ready for the world to see it. Right? So to understand, this is before we even had a vernacular with like what happens online. So the idea of a troll was something that merely guarded a bridge at that point. There was no...
Back then, we called it flaming. Oh, I'm going to flame that dude.
Right. There was no such thing as like a troll or anything like that. So we upload the first video and I go to bed. And I'm like, I cannot wait to start hearing the feedback on this because this is going to be great. Go to bed, wake up that morning. First thing I pop up, I go and I check on the computer. I bring it up. Very first comment, straight out of the box. Who's this faggot?
Oh, no way.
Seriously. Okay, and now you know me well.
Here it goes.
You know me well enough, right? And now, like I said, we can put it into context, and that's someone we blow off as a troll. Right. At that point, I was inviting him over to fight. You know, it's like, here's my address. I'm gonna come. I'm gonna show. I'm gonna beat you up. I'm gonna, But just, I mean, the blow to my ego, and just like, the idea of like thinking that this was going to be something so great and something that was going to be so well received and so appreciated, and for that to be the first comment to come back, like, wow.
I think what makes it so funny to me is I know you.
Right.
I could just imagine the tunnel, the dark tunnel that this led you down.
It's a slippery slope because, like I said, now it's so easy to just kind of like you're a bully or you're a troll or whatever, and and at the time, I remember like looking at the timestamp on the guy's comment. It was like 3:00 in the morning. And I'm thinking to myself at the time, like, wow, that's so important that 3:00 but no, this is someone that's all they do, right? And now we know that
From
that's
mom's
sort
basement.
of that's definitely a personality that exists.
Yeah, to this day. I mean,
no, it's only gotten worse.
Oh my gosh,
people are emboldened by the fact that they don't have to. And that's the nice thing about us having a one-on-one, face-to-face conversation is there's an accountability there that doesn't exist. And I think that that's something that we have to sort of find our way back to.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing. It's like, how do we find our way? Or, what's going to be the technological answer to that someone being an asshole?
It's the opposite. Because I've thought about this. For as wonderful as technology is, this is one of the rabbit holes, right? Okay. I think that what you have to do is you have to carve out time to still meet with people and be social. And it's got to go beyond, the technology that's advancing. And we've got to go back to, hey, remember how good it was when we get like 6 of us together and we'd go out for an evening or invite people over to your home and just hang out and do whatever, And that's why food is so wonderful, because it gives you the perfect excuse.
Yeah. Who doesn't like to eat?
Well, I'm sure who doesn't have to eat?
Yeah, exactly. Who doesn't? I mean, me personally, I think it's a problem. I love to eat too much, and it's going back to how technology is. We kind of have to disconnect from it and get back to the actual physical meetings of everything.
Right.
And I think technology, in a sense, is getting relied upon too much on a social level. It's like that seems to be people's only social existence. And, kind of what we were talking about before we even started this is how through texting, context gets lost. Oh. Context is king,
my God.
Or no, we were recording by the time we talked about that.
But even within my own relationship, like with myself and Ty, we've been together for 5 years, and we sort of have to create some rules around our texting. It's like, you know what, if we've got to have an important conversation, let's have that conversation. Let's not write that to each other, because there's so many things that are lost when you don't have inflection or body language.
Right.
It just gets lost, and then it looks like it's text, and you read it, you receive it where your mindset is at.
Well, I think,
so if you feel you're being attacked, no matter what that person says, it's going to seem like an attack.
Yeah, and I think technology, when used properly, it's an accessory to communication. So, to your point of something important to say, well, let's use that technology I mean, when people say, I think it's a little oversimplified. If I want to talk to someone, I just pick up the phone and call. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Nobody answers phone calls anymore.
No one really answers.
They let it go to voicemail.
Right.
And
It's not so easy. And what people forget about is, remember before technology, you better be home if I call, or else you guys don't talk.
You know, it's the art of conversation is being lost. And that's because in texting, you could send me a text, and if I wait 5 minutes to text back, that can be because I'm busy. That can be because I'm trying to craft the perfect thing to say.
Right.
That could be because I'm trying to sweat you.
Right.
You know what I mean? But when we're sitting here talking one-on-one like this, there's no BS. There's no nothing. If I start to panic, you see the look on my face.
Yeah, why are you getting all fidgety, Kirk?
Right, exactly. So I think that the art of conversation has been lost, which, you know, it reminds me, have you seen this show Black Mirror?
Episode 2, season 1? Is that what we're getting at?
Well,
I've only seen the first 2 episodes of the first season.
Oh, okay. We're talking. I'll just like to not no spoiler alerts here.
No
but
spoiler.
Princess and Pig.
That was episode 1.
Okay. Have you ever seen anything so right?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, but what's so great about that show is it's exactly what we're talking about. It's taking this wonderful technology and then it brings it to a situation where, oh God, is it really that good? So I think what the answer is that technology always needs to advance. It always should advance, but we can't lose consciousness of the bad stuff that's potentially there.
You bring up a good point because, okay, first off, this is going to be a scatterbrain conversation because you are involved in so many things. That's one thing.
Well, you're talking about 2 scatterbrains, first of all. So this is going to be like
it's going to be the perfect
explosion
ADD
in a spaghetti factory.
Yeah, it's going to be the perfect ADD episode.
Right.
But the reality of it is, I mean, I think both of us, to an extent, we show so much interest in so many things. I like to look at it as we just love life, and there's so many things in life that are so interesting. And we take the time to invest time in a lot of these slices of life. And you, on a professional level, it's hard to pin you down. You are involved in so many things, and the fact that we met on the level of jiu-jitsu. It's like, jiu-jitsu. That's great.
Right.
Hey, what do you do for a living? Well, I write for a show. And also I write for a magazine. Oh, and I'm a chef. It's so many. It's a concoction of so many cool things.
I do on-air work. I'm also in front of the camera
in front of the
well.
camera, right. So going back to what you were saying about like the way we consume entertainment, like Black Mirror, first off, which I've only seen those first 2 episodes, but I'm in because it's so close to the Twilight Zone. It's the best thing modern day Twilight Zone. They've tried to revamp and redo Twilight Zone a few times. I don't think it ever stuck.
No.
But the Black Mirror thing seems to have its lane.
Good.
It's really good. But to that, there's so many things vying for our attention where if you rewind, let's rewind 30 years. Okay, that's a significant rewind. I think before Fox was its own television network. You only had 3 major networks, right? So when you talk about the effect that media has on culture, it's like we only have these 3 major networks. So society, for the most part, is all watching the same thing.
Yeah.
That talk at the water cooler is all, chances are you saw the game last night. Chances are you saw that Leave It to Beaver
episode. And
episode.
think of how special things were. Like I remember like when I was a kid, you remember Monday Night Baseball?
No, I remember Monday Night Football.
Right, but they had Monday Night Baseball.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Right, where they have a game of the week, and it was because now it's like you can find a baseball game any day. You know, it might not be your team, but if you love baseball that much, you can find it. So Monday Night Baseball went. The only reason why Monday Night Football sticks is because you're only playing, you know, certain days of the week, but baseball is played throughout the week.
Right.
So that sort of went by, but it was so special. Like here's Monday, and it's Monday Night Baseball, and this is awesome.
Gather.
And now it's like whatever.
Right. And and back then, it's like there weren't many choices. So chances are you had something to talk about to your schoolmates, to your work, your coworkers, your colleagues, whatever. It's like you guys are all kind of on the same page as far as conversations go, face-to-face interactions. Now, those conversations at the water cooler.
Yeah, stuff you haven't even heard of.
And it's bizarre. It's like, you know, you could either watch, oh, do you see that Netflix? No, not yet, because you can watch it on your own time.
Yeah.
And furthermore, it's like, oh, did you see that new Pootie Pie video? Pootie Pie, what's that? You don't know Pootie. He's the biggest thing on YouTube. And it's like, he's so huge in one sphere, but on another sphere, I never heard this guy. That wouldn't fly 35
Well, I
years
think
ago.
that's sort of, the beautiful thing is that nowadays, if you have an iPhone and, internet access, you can create content. Right? Anybody can do it. And that's the good news. But the thing is that, anybody can create it. But because anybody can create it, there's so much of it out there. It's like, how are you now going to funnel people to what you're doing, as opposed to, aside from getting lucky and just falling into favor with a lot of people, how are you going to funnel people there? Because it's so vast, And I think that's the trick nowadays is being able to do that. And people who are successful with content, I think, find those ways based on the content and based on who they want their audience to be, if that makes sense.
No, it does. In fact, I was just having this conversation with my buddy Sam, who deals with, he's in the music industry. And we were talking about record deals of the past. And record deals, or music, and how to get a record deal in the past to current day, to where, man, anyone with a camera or any kind of recording device could make their own music, their own demo tape, and the world decides if they like it or not.
Well, it's funny. We were having a conversation before we sat down on mic about how, it's like, here we are. I'm 50. You're right behind me. And it's like we're sort of stuck in that middle where it's like we don't want to be the old guys saying, oh, in my day, this is how, look at how much has changed. At the same time, too, we are sort of struggling with like staying
old-time
current
values.
and old-time values and all that sort of stuff. So where was I going with this? Where was I going with this? I lost my train of thought.
Well, what we were talking about is how people consume technology or entertainment media to where anyone with essentially a cell phone.
Oh, okay. So thank you for bringing me back on track. So my point about that was like the music business.
Right.
You want to talk about a group of like old white guys who decided to like fight the youth? I mean, you remember when Napster started?
Oh, yeah. It's going to destroy music.
I mean,
that's what we're talking about. It's going to
how
destroy
stupid
music.
does Metallica look now? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, and I say that with reverence. I love that band, but I mean,
respect,
but
right.
at the same time,
It's short-sighted.
It is so short-sighted because you ain't going to stop that train.
Oh,
all
yeah.
right. And that's what I think that we have to understand.
Yeah.
That if you don't stay current and look at music nowadays, record deal, who cares? Because you know what? I don't even need a record. I need a song. I need a song, and then there's a million platforms that'll host it. And the only person who's gonna, if it hits, the only person who gets the money from it is me. And you know what? Most of this stuff, music-wise, is given away. That's what's given away now, and it's about the licensing, the merchandise, the touring, that kind of stuff where it brings in the money. And that is that younger generation. That's not the way it was done. It was like you got a record deal, and you made your money off of album sales.
Right.
Look at bands like, you got bands like Radiohead and bands like Coldplay who give away albums. Like, you know what? From this month to this month, we're just going to give that album away, because they want you to go see their tour.
Yeah, and we'll be in your town. And furthermore, they could target where they want to market at the click of a button now. The way that marketing's changing. Yeah, to your point, the fact that Napster arrived and there was a fight to suppress it, that's totally the wrong move. I mean, historically, even when books were started getting printed,
right?
It's the same story over and over with new technology. The way people receive, the people that are stuck in it's not the way I did, so that's not the way we're going to do it from here on out. Which is, it always annoyed me when people thought like that. Just because you did it that way, I got a better way of doing it.
Right.
And shoot, now I'm losing my thought. But no, it's that old school thinking that holds things back. Is once that bell's rung, you can't unring it.
So
it's here.
The question I think remains then, if we can verbalize, if we can sit here and verbalize, like, it's sort of stupid to not like be progressive with your thinking around this kind of stuff. Why do we still do it? Is it pride? Is it a comfortability with the known versus the unknown? Is it a fear of that unknown? What is it exactly that keeps us stuck? Because you see so many posts and memes and on social media about, like, in my day, this is what this looked like. Now this is what it looks like, and it's like, shut up.
Yeah. Oh, you know
Shut
what?
up.
And to that, to the folks, and if those folks are listening now, to that older generation that says, oh, what has this world become? And, in my day, we did it this way. Well, you know what? You fell asleep on your watch, because the generation that's here and now making these decisions, that was your generation to raise. We are the monster you created.
And remember how it felt when your,
generation
the generation above you told you were an idiot?
Yeah.
No, you weren't an idiot. You ended up like running it for a while.
And try to hide Elvis Presley from you.
And
right.
And that's coming. That's coming. So it's like, I think that there's sort of this real fine line, and it's a slippery slope on either side.
It is.
So there are some values that shouldn't change. And there are some things that I think are good about the way things have always been done. At the same time, too, you got to stay current. You got to see where things are going or where they could go. And if you don't ride that line, I don't know. I think it's dangerous for your career. I think it's dangerous, just your
emotional health.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, because everything's a choice, and it's a good choice. You could choose to just detach. You know what? I can't stand this world anymore. I'm gonna go up in the mountains and be a hermit. Fair enough. Fair. But what I would rather that than someone just choose to be just cranky and angry all the time and just complain about how things are done in the past. And if you have those values, it's cool to have those values, to each their own. But I think the trick is to communicate those values on the new platforms.
Right.
To understand the new generation.
There's a happy medium with everything.
It's cool to open doors for other people.
For sure.
Although it might be getting lost. I think overall manners through every generation and like a form of chivalry has kind of degressed through the times.
Little weird, yeah.
Because I find myself when I'm eating, sorry, Mom, I put my elbows on the table quite a bit.
Right.
But I'm still good about putting my napkin on my lap. You know, stuff like that. Just manners, or wait until, try to wait until everyone's eating before you start eating. But just because the newer generation may not do it, I'm not going to say, oh, your generation sucks. It's not. You got to keep your ear to the street, so to speak. And how are they communicating? Because if you're up to date on how people are communicating, then maybe you can communicate those old values on the new medium.
Well, and there's also a big difference between things like manners and decorum and behavior, and then just technology, new platforms, innovations. So they're not mutually exclusive. They can coexist.
Right.
These things can coexist. And that's the thing. One of the things that really, really pissed me off, I saw a meme, and I know we're not going to get real overly political here, and that's not where I want to go with it, but this is to our point, what we're talking now. The school shooting in Florida, okay? And afterwards, these kids who survived it spoke up. Right. Well, they started getting a lot of flack for all of a sudden there's these kids and they have some sort of an opinion on guns. Well, you know what? They got shot at. So I kind of think they do have an opinion.
Right.
But the meme that really, really pissed me off was I saw a meme that went around and it was a picture of a Tide Pod. And it said 2 weeks ago, you were eating these. Yeah. Now you're telling us about how to make law.
Right.
And it's like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
And you know what? And to that, and I agree with you 100%. And I know when it comes to stuff like this, you and I aren't even on the same page on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
But we've never had an argument over this.
No.
We just kind of chew on it, see the other side.
No.
And I see that meme. Yeah, that meme pisses me off too. It's like, why are you trying to discount their voice? And that's the problem. It's that mentality, that thinking.
Right.
Shut up, youngins.
And you want to talk about making a leap? Like first of all, I highly doubt these kids who are in speech club were the ones who were eating Tide Pods to begin with.
Right.
Okay, so let's just start there, and then just
next year they're going to be voting too. And those high school kids.
And then just like the lack of compassion too.
Right.
It's like, wait a minute, even if you want to discount what they have to say, which is your right, and I'm not going to fault you for that if that's what you want to do. Hey, you know what? This got shot at, man. They just saw friends die. It's like they got something to say. Let them say it.
Right.
Let them say it.
Right.
Sort of like, not being able to ever speak your mind is a really sort of like frustrating, stifling place to be. And you put the right personality in that position, guess what? You have a revolution.
Right.
So watch out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what all revolutions are born out of. It's just not trying to eliminate a voice of a segment of society. segments of society.
Really,
when you're not listening.
And it's so funny because I you see it so much, and I really, for the life of me, don't know what people are so scared of. In terms of like allowing someone to have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that we're far enough along in our society to where we can like sort of, we've been able to make judgments. Like, we know that murder's wrong. We know that rape is wrong. We know that theft is wrong. There's certain things in terms of speech,
right,
where if someone goes there, everyone should be like, whoa, no, not cool. And I think we can kind of cherry pick those things and understand what those are. But then there's other things that just sort of fall under opinion. Mm-hmm. And while, I have the right to like disagree with it or think that opinion is ridiculous, you have the right to have it and speak it. So there's, once again, another fine line. And see, for me, I think I've never been a black or white guy. And you can, anybody who really knows me, you can talk to my fiancé Ty and she'll tell you the same thing. It's never about over here for me. It's always about like, it's something in the middle.
Right.
It's something in the middle.
And I think finding that middle ground is digging a little deeper. It's like, why do you think that way? And then giving it some honest thought.
But it also helps when you're a Libra and can't make a decision to save your life. That helps too.
Right.
So, but no, I understand what you're saying. Absolutely. It does take a little bit more, I think diplomacy, patience, whatever you want to put on it.
And I think there's like some sort of moral high ground when those types of discussions, when someone's being like very dismissive on an idea, a thought, a position, a stance, like, oh, the young generation, whatever. It's like there's some sort of like they're puffing, they're peacocking,
right,
and positioning themselves as a position of a higher authority. I think that's where that kind of thinking comes from. Like, an older brother to a younger brother, or there's like a figure of speech in the hip hop community. It's like, oh man, he's sonning you. He's sonning you. It's
right.
He's talking to you like you're his son. It's
right.
like he's trying to talk down to you, and I think it's a broken method of thinking because no progress. Because at the end of the day, it's like once you say, "Oh, well, back in my day," okay, why are you telling me? What now?
But in all of those classic archetypes, you can look at everything from Greek mythology to movies. At some point, the student becomes the teacher.
Yeah. And to my point.
And the success in that relationship and in the outcome of everything is the teacher being a little bit gracious about that and understanding, I did something right here. I did something right. Mm-hmm. So while the idea may not be exactly mine or how I used to do it, you know what? I did something right. I created a human being who is able to have free thought and the intelligence to sort of formulate something and bring that out and make it happen.
Right.
So I think that, there's a lesson there to be learned for old guys like us.
Absolutely. And you actually hit on my point right before I was going to hit on it. But you said where the student becomes a teacher. I was going to use the words where the apprentice becomes the master and bring it back to that's why the world needs jiu-jitsu.
We will always do that. My God, right?
Yeah, because you could. Oh, that move will never work. That move will never work. Really? Let's do the jiu-jitsu method.
I often think that people who don't do jiu-jitsu must just get sick of us. It's like it's like
being a vegan,
right? Or a CrossFitter.
Right,
jiu-jitsu black belt, a CrossFitter, and a vegan walk into a bar. How do you know? Because that's the first thing they talked about as soon as they got in the door.
Right.
That's how we are. But no, there is truth to that, and vice versa. You bring these principles to your martial arts of any kind.
It's the saying: the mats don't lie.
Yeah,
right?
well, and then also too, you've got to keep an open mind. It's like you're never the baddest guy in the room, even when you're the baddest guy in the room. Mm-hmm. And if you kind of have this mindset where, well, this is what I'm going to do, and that's all I'm going to do, and there's going to be someone who's going to figure that out and is going to figure it out.
Crack that code.
Right, they're going to crack the code, and then they've got you. Mm-hmm. So it's always that open-mindedness to like, what else do I need to know?
Yeah, and for me, that's my subtle reminder of that. And the good thing is, we get reminded of that multiple times a week.
Oh my God, right?
Multiple times a week. It's like a part of our lifestyle to where, at least, and I'm sure you feel the same. It's gotten to a point where I've chosen, and I look at life through the lens of jiu-jitsu. Like whenever it's a bad situation, I always equate it to I'm mounted. Mm-hmm. It's like, dang, I'm inside control. This sucks. But there's an answer to this. There's a sequence that if I do it properly, I'm out of this bad situation.
Right.
And then you could try the first thing. The initial hit bump didn't work.
And that cooler heads prevail.
Yeah,
like,
you
you're
gotta
not
think
going to
it
get
through.
out of anything in life or in jiu-jitsu by being a spaz.
Right,
You
right.
gotta like really not just, you gotta go to a whole special place
And
because it's stifling. I mean, you ever get
Right.
your head caught inside somebody's gi or someone's got your neck and this is, I mean, it's like one of those feelings like, you're not going to die, but still you kind of feel like,
This sucks.
this is maybe what it feels like.
Right.
You know?
Right. And even if you do escape a certain bad situation through that explosion and not really technical, you're bound to get in it again.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's going to be a point where you don't have it left. You can't explode anymore. And you could even equate that to when we get older. It's like, I don't have that kind of energy. I need to work smarter, not harder. I think the practice of jiu-jitsu embodies that.
Oh, man.
You got to work smarter, not harder.
Oh gosh, I got to a point where, going to different schools, you always kind of you wind up in a different space with different teammates, and the first time I transitioned after when we stopped training together and I went to my next school, the majority of the people there were like much younger than what I was used to. And we sort of had the babies for us were like mid-30s, right? Those are the babies, right? Here the babies are like 19, and they're these like, Statue of David looking 19-year-olds.
Everyone looking like Ronnie.
Who train every day,
Right.
and, and I think that's what
Well,
really...
hey man, wait. Let me stop you there. Or a statue of Kirky, dude.
Oh, please.
Come on, man. You're like an Adonis.
Trying to keep it together, man.
Right. Okay.
Trying to keep it together.
Okay, do continue. Sorry.
So no, but I mean, it was like it became very, very, just right in the forefront for me that like my days of beating people with speed and beating people with strength, they're over. They are over, and my body it doesn't recover the same way. It's like I got to do something different. And I remember, you're gonna love this story. So we're mutual friends with Steve Cardenas, and for those who don't know him, Steve Cardenas is a jiu-jitsu black belt. And he's a former Power Ranger. Well, I guess once a Power Ranger, you're always a Power Ranger, right?
That's right.
That's how they. That's how that goes.
Is that
Those
their
guys,
signal?
they're still touring, Right. So, but at any rate, he was over at my house. We were training, and in the past, he's always said to me, "Kirk, you got to slow down. You got to slow down. You got to slow down." So one day we're training, and he stops everything right in his tracks, and this is like at 6:30 in the morning, and he's like, "Damn it!" He goes, I have watched you for the last 4 or 5 years, and the one thing in your game that hasn't changed is this. He's like,
He yelled at you.
I'm sitting
in your
here,
own house.
I'm like, and I'm like doe-eyed, and I'm like, I'm doe-eyed, and he is putting it on me, and he's telling me, you're a student of the game, you're in great shape, your dedication is there, and you won't stop doing this. Slow down. And from that moment, it was like, never again. Never again. It was the wake-up call, and I had to find ways to do that because my natural inclination is, I played high school football. So my natural inclination is to tackle people and drive their face into the ground. That's what I want to do. So to play this chess game and move gracefully underneath you, and as a smaller guy with bigger guys, it's like that is just not natural. So what I did was, for about a good 3-4 months, I started out every one of my rolls in an inferior position.
Oh, good.
Because I figured if I wasn't on my feet or wasn't on my knees, I couldn't be attacking you. I couldn't get into that mode. Let me start in a different mode. And it helped. And I think that there's a lesson there for real life. I think there really is. You got to change things up. And you know what? Sometimes that struggle is really good for you. Is really, really good for you, I mean, it's like, I know far more people who struggled and came out of it way better than I do people who struggled and went under. Way more.
Right. Yeah, I mean, anything that is held to such high esteem, like the proudest moment of your life, there was struggle. Guaranteed, there was struggle in that proudest moment of your life.
For sure.
For everything.
For sure.
I mean, think about it, you go to a gym, how do you make your arm bigger? It's going to burn.
Yeah.
You got to feel that burn. But being involved in so many things, I mean, you were a YouTube star before YouTube was creating stars, apparently. How did you find jiu-jitsu?
Okay. So one night I'm at the market doing nightly shopping for dinner, and I've got my son with me, who at the time I think was about 5. And he was kind of doing his thing. You have to understand, to put it in proper context, my son has been coming to the market with me because of my background with food and the amount of shopping I do. I don't shop like the majority of people shop. I do my shopping on a nightly basis because it's like, that's how I know what I want to eat that night. And for me, the store is not a place of stress. It's a place to decompress. I get to walk around, I get to create what I'm going to make, and I get to see all the food, and I get to talk to people I see every day. It's great. So I'm there with my son, Rocco, and he is so comfortable in the store that even at that age, he could I'd allow him to walk around and visit stuff because he knows what he's doing in the store, you know? And I hear him
At 5?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's been coming with me since he was 3-4 weeks old.
Little ninja.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one of the, not to digress here, but one of the games that my son Rocco and my stepsons now like to play, if they're in the store with me, I've got the list and I give each one of them the ingredient and they've got to go find it and you better pick out a good version of it, because if you bring me back a brown cabbage, we got problems. You're bringing it right back and you're going to go get a green one. So no, and it's something that they really enjoy. So I hear him in the aisle next to me and he's talking to someone. Now my hackles are raised, right? Like, who's my kid talking to? So I walk around the corner and there he is talking with one of his schoolmates and their father. Turns out that father's Anthony.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Anthony Cruz, right?
Yeah.
So Anthony and I start talking, and he's like, out of the blue, says to me, "Do you enjoy UFC?" I'm like, "Yeah, I like UFC." He's like, "Well, me and some guys who I do jiu-jitsu with are getting together for the UFC fight this weekend. Would you be interested in joining us?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, that sounds good." I was a weekend where I didn't have my son with me, and I knew I was free. So came down, met everybody, and of course, then Kevin starts giving me the hard sell. Like, you're in good shape, man.
Kung Fu Kevin.
Yeah, you're in good shape, man. Why aren't you doing jiu-jitsu? Right?
That sounds just like him.
And, I've got it down now after 5 years. Yeah. So the thing is that I really didn't have a good excuse, except for the fact that, I'd done martial arts as a kid and sort of always thought, man, it'd be nice to get back into it, but never thought that I really had the time for it. And he goes, "Why don't you come down and join us?" And, if you know Kevin Baker, this is really good imitation.
It's a hilarious story, yeah.
And I'm like, all right, great. So I came down on a Tuesday. It was my first class. And I was like, I remember, oh, man, this is everything that I love.
I can't remember. You didn't have a gi or anything, right?
No, it was no gi. You guys were doing no gi. So
Okay.
I came down in a pair of gym shorts and a tank top,
right.
really loose-fitting tank top, right? And the things that for me that struck me was, well, okay, first of all, this is an amazing workout. Like, I thought I was in good shape. I am dying right now. Second thing is like, I grew up in sort of a tough town, and so I grew up with very much a fighter's mentality. Having been in my share of like street fights and been involved in that kind of stuff. Like, I get to kind of fight. It's kind of cool, right? Like fighting, but it's sort of like real compassionate fighting. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a great descriptor.
Right? And then also too, it's like everyone was so friendly and so nice, and it's like, this is something I need. And I just never stopped going. So that's kind of how I got into it. I stumbled across it, and it just spoke to me. I sort of stepped outside my comfort zone somewhat. I kept my mind open. And the other, listen, I think it really shows. And you're talking to someone, I train 4 to 5 days a week. And that's on top of like extracurricular stuff, hitting the gym, going for a run.
Your schedule is insane. Like when we met, you're well into your 40s, but man, you would get after it. You're waking up early in the morning, you're doing your road work.
As long as I'm moving, I'm not dead.
Yeah.
I know this.
Yeah, you've accepted that,
right?
As your truth.
But the important thing that they showed me was here. I kind of made these excuses like I won't have time for this. It's amazing what you have time for when you carve out time for it. And that doesn't just mean jiu-jitsu. Let's just throw that by the wayside. Let's talk about just, your career or your family or your friends or whatever. There's time for it to all exist. You just have to be proactive with it. And you know what else? Commit. Commit. I think that's something, it's become easier to be non-committal. But commitment is a really, really sort of freeing thing. Because think about it for a second. When you're non-committal, when you're on the fence about something, you're like, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. Think about the struggle that goes through in your mind. When I've committed to something, there's no struggle.
Yeah, I gotta get
Not
this
one
done.
bit of struggle. That's what I'm going to do.
I have to do it.
Think
Right.
about how that mindset right there will benefit your marriage or your relationships, or with anybody, with your kids, with your friends, your coworkers, with your career, yourself. Commit to things. Commit to things and be accountable. And however you form that accountability, that's up to you. There's some people who like to tell everybody so that everybody else holds them accountable. Fine, if that works for you, go for it, whatever it may be. But commit and don't be afraid of it. It's actually a very freeing thing.
Yeah, and you are a man, like I said, you are truly busy with so many, like those interests that I rattled off as far as being a chef, it's stuff you are still actively involved in.
Absolutely. Everything. I make dinner for my kids. Now, I'm lucky. See, it's funny. For the longest time, I had to consider myself a single dad. And while Ty and I are just engaged at this point, we're not married, I can't consider myself a single dad anymore. And, while, my son's with us 50% of the time, when he's with us, I have a true partner. I have a true partner who definitely does her share and more of the heavy lifting, But when it comes to meal preparing, it's something that I really enjoy. So I probably take the lion's share of that, actually to the point where sometimes she's like, can I just make dinner? I really want to make dinner. Because, right? That's a pretty good place to be.
Right.
That's a good place to be. She's
Right.
like, I just haven't done it. And I really want to make this. I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're right. I get it. But it's something that I've committed to and that I really do enjoy. So it's like we eat dinner at our house, I would say 6 nights out of the week.
So, to get to produce the amount of work that you produce, to get everything done, would you consider yourself a very regimented person?
Yeah.
Like, I'm up at this time. I mean, do you write out your schedule? How does your daily planning go?
Yeah, sometimes it's funny because sometimes I've noticed I've become a little too regimented at times. So I'll have to actually scale that back. Like, it's like, wait a minute.
You schedule your fun?
Right. Or like scheduling something stupid. Like all of a sudden I'm looking on my phone at my schedule and I'm like, really? Did I take out the trash? Like, I really have to put that on my list of like when I'm going to do that. Like,
my timer's going off tonight for that very thing. Taking out the trash.
I mean, there's certain things like you just kind of like
I don't want to forget.
Right. You won't.
No, it happens. I've been punched in the head a lot, and I think it's affected my memory.
Okay.
Because there's nothing worse, and I'm sure a lot of people, and I'm sure when I say this, you'll be like, oh, that's true, where you wake up in the morning to the trash truck.
What's even better is
I didn't put out the trash.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. What's even better is when you write something in your schedule, and when then you go to revisit and go, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
I can't
That's
even.
a big one.
Did I write in code? What is that? So I'll have to. But yes, I think that what it is it's once again I'm gonna go back to commitment. It's like here's what I know I got to do. Right, I know I got to be at work at this time, and I got to stay roughly at this time. I know that I'm picking up my son from school that day, and there's going to be things like homework and dinner and things like that. And you know what? I want to get jiu-jitsu in there. Where's that going to happen? Well, today it's going to happen at 6 a.m.
And you committed. I don't ever remember you ever. There was never where's Kirk?
No, actually, it was the opposite. If it was like Kirk's not at class, it's like we're calling the police.
Yeah, I think that happened once. We called you like, whoa, what happened?
That was the funniest thing. Like when I first started dating Ty, she would be like, why are you calling Kevin to tell him you're not going to be at class? Because if I don't, he's going to worry. She's like, you're in the wrong relationship. Right. He's like, what do you mean he's going to worry? I'm like, I'm there every day. I don't show up. It's going to be like he's been in an accident or something bad, So no, there is. I think that it's the commitment and then a little bit of organization and thought put into it. If you just allow your day to happen, and believe me, I have those days that I'm like, today is the day where we're gonna be cowboys, man. We are gonna go with the wind and we're gonna do whatever we feel like, and those days are great. But if you want your day to include the things that you've committed to, then I think that to some degree there's got to be an outline there, and that's just a little bit of forethought.
Were you always like that? Were you naturally inclined to be a little organized?
That's the Virgo side. Look at me getting all like zodiacal.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
right?
Zodiacal,
Because I'm on that
That's what
cusp
it's
of
called.
like Virgo and Libra. So the Libra side of me is like, and the Virgo side of me is like writing everything down. Yeah,
Okay.
that's. I've always been, oldest child, like I said, old school, first generation American,
Okay.
Old world values. Typically, there's only one way to do things, very regimented, but at the same time, I'm not saying that in a negative way. I mean, it provided a tremendous amount of structure. As well as we're talking about, I was raised by good people who did good things. They worked hard and they raised kids and got them through college and.
So you're the chip off the old block, pretty much. Can you see behavior patterns? That's the dad in me. Oh, that's my mom's side.
Yes and no. See, what's weird is that my dad's life, my dad who passed a few years back, his life can really be divided into sort of two parts, because my dad, when he was about 58, which is so weird because he's only 8 years older than I am now, had a stroke.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And it was not a stroke that's like a typical sort of blockage in like a carotid artery. It was he had a stroke because like he had a vessel of blood in his brain basically collapse, sort of just blocked off neural pathways. So from the time he was 58, prior to turning 58, he was like a real man's man. He owned his own business. He was a woodworker. There wasn't any job around the house that he couldn't get done. I mean, he let's put it this way. He added on to our house, my childhood house. He tripled the size of it, and he did it entirely by himself. The only things that he didn't do in the remodel, he worked on the weekends for 5 years. Took him 5 years worth of weekends. Gave up every one of his weekends for 5 years to do this house. The only thing that he didn't do is he didn't wrap it, he didn't stucco it, and he didn't do some of the big like new plumbing that needed to be done. Everything else he did by himself. 5 years.
Chip off the old block.
So think about that, and then think about just being raised in the middle of World War II, and there wasn't a lot of like being able to change his mind. I mean, it was
Committed.
It was this way or no way, right? But then he had a stroke. All right, so now take that able-bodied person and put him in a chair. And I can remember now, my mom, who's still with us, she became sort of, now sort of like had to do a lot of the physical stuff that he used to take care of. And he used to have to sit there in a chair and sort of tell her how to do it, and, watching the frustration. Oh my God, at first it did. But what I will tell you is that it opened up a whole new world for him. And he adapted. Someone who I thought was like completely without the ability to adapt to anything else, adapted in a really beautiful way. I mean, he never saw anybody complain, never saw him complain. You never saw him like say, I wish it were this, I wish it were that. He found new things. Like, yeah, okay, you know what? I can't work on the house anymore, but you know what? I'm gonna figure out chess. I've always wanted to play chess. Or you know what? Now all of a sudden I'm gonna write. And he
broadened his palette.
Oh my God. And he became much more like emotional too. Like the emotional side of him like opened up. So it's very funny. And he's always had this very compassionate side, but it was very sort of stoic compassion. The compassion that he had after his stroke was, I mean, he'd go to tears in a second. Like you get him to cry, no problem, right? So it's like, it's funny. There's examples there on both sides, but it's so weird because one of the things that has gotten me through, and we're gonna take this back to jiu-jitsu. You knew this was coming. Typically our matches, our rules are 5 minutes. And 5 minutes when you're kicking someone's ass goes by like that. 5 minutes when you're getting your ass kicked is like an hour.
When is this round going to end?
It's awful, right? It's excruciating. And the thing that I always held in my mind was, my dad can handle something that well for 20 years. I got 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
I got 5 minutes of me. It's like you put it in that comparison. If you're not going to complain, if you're going to sit there and figure out creative ways to do things. Right.
Very important. Perspective.
Right. And I think that's something that, that it provides, at least for me, is that the idea to like constantly think about things differently. And if you're not, you're dying.
And speaking of providing, one of your other passions is you had what was it? Some sort of sandwich of the year named after you, or not named after you, but you concocted.
Okay, so the story there is like I said, in a lot of through my 30-year career of TV, there have been times where I've either been in between work or I've had less of work than I need to sort of survive. So one of the ways I've filled that in, because not always easy to get out and get 2 TV shows, which by the way I have now.
Right. One of them's Community.
No. I'm talking about TV shows that are my bread and butter. Judge Judy.
Oh, okay.
I produce for Judge Judy, and then I also produce for her sister show, which is a show she created called Hot Bench.
Okay.
It's another court show. So I do both those shows. So that's what makes up my bread and butter for the most part.
Gotcha.
My on-air stuff is while it does bring in some money, it's not the revenue stream that kind of keeps you going. It's more of a passion project, and you never know where it turns up, sort of thing.
Which I totally dig, because again, going back to who doesn't like food, everyone's got to eat.
There's, I mean, gosh, at the end of it all, when I sign out, I'm going to have a lot of footage. Right. the highlight reel of my life is going to be really tough to edit because of the amount of footage. So,
right.
But at any rate, with that regarding the sandwich, at one point I had taken this gig over at it was an Italian deli that was a startup over in Los Feliz. And when I hooked up with them, I was sort of kind of like just looking for a job to fill in the time. Well, as it turns out, they were looking for a chef. Like, they hadn't even created a menu. And I started looking at their timeline, like, well, when are you going to open up? And they're like, well, in a month. Like, wait a minute, hold on a second. So you don't even have the basic concept here aside from Italian deli? And you have a menu and you can open up in a month? I said, you need like a menu like today. And come to find out, these guys had never owned a restaurant before. They were green. They were people who, like, restaurants sounded like fun. We love food. Let's do it. And until you've been in the restaurant world, you know that is a potential for disaster, because restaurant world and restaurant work and food service
very short-lived, right?
It's hard, man. It's a grind. It is a grind. So they were like, well, would you be interested in working with us on that? I'm like, absolutely. So I said, I tell you what. They said, why don't you go home, come back tomorrow, and we're going to give you a food audition. You make us something, and we'll tell you if, So I went home, and I was like, Italian deli, what am I going to do? I said, you know what? I said, I want to do an Italian sub, but I want to, and it's got to read Italian sub.
No, is Italian fare your go-to? Would you say you have a go-to?
No. World cuisine. Okay. I would say if you had to ask me what my go-to is, I'm a real big fan of world cuisine, like very authentic, representations of different iconic dishes. Okay. Versus sort of a farms to table seasonal approach. Okay. So in other words, this is back in season. The corn looks amazing. We're doing something with corn tonight.
Okay, and I want to ask you about that stuff, but we'll keep it on the sandwich.
Okay. I want to do this sub, but it's a sub. So like how many different variations of a sub can you make without it not reading like a sub anymore? So I started thinking about it, and I created this sandwich. And I brought it to them, and now you got to understand something. These people are really Italian. So changing their mind on Italian food
you get slapped for that.
Yeah. So this sandwich, the bottom layer was, I made a spread. It was a parsley and olive oil based spread that basically I emulsified with a little bit of anchovy paste, some capers, some lemon zest. That became like the spread. That took the place of like the mayonnaise or the mustard. It provided a little bit of acid. It made the bread moist. Then I put in all the usual suspects in terms of cold cuts and cheese. There was your recognizable point. But then instead of like sort of like iceberg lettuce with your traditional Italian vinaigrette, I did a wild arugula and then sort of an amped up version of an Italian vinaigrette. But then what the kicker was the top layer of it was, you know how like on some Italian subs, actually it wasn't quite the top layer, it sat on top of the meat and cheese. You have giardiniera. You know what that is?
No.
Okay, giardiniera, it's usually cauliflower, carrots, there's some celery, chili peppers, and they're pickled. They sit in a brine. And they're delicious. They go on anything. You can put them on a sandwich. You can throw them into a lot of different things. I said, I want to do a giardiniera, but I'm going to do it homemade, and I'm going to do it raw, and I'm going to do it like a salad. And I created this giardiniera salad that had raw cauliflower and golden raisins and all of this crazy stuff in it. And they come and I'm doing this sandwich and I'm doing it in front of them. They're like, what do you need the golden raisins for? They're like freaking out.
Okay.
And what's the cauliflower going in our summer? Just let me do this. And I put this sub together and I gave it to them. They took a bite and they're like, you're hired. You're hired. We're not only gonna hire you and let you do the menu, but this is gonna be our
signature sandwich.
They named, ironically and coincidentally, the place is named Rocco's, and it's still there in Los Feliz. And they named it after their father, Rocco, which is my son's name. Right. And it's the Il Rocco is still on the menu, and it's still their number one seller. And at one point, after I had left the deli, Thrillist had rated it as
that's what it was.
The top 8 Italian sandwiches in LA.
Right.
And it was so weird because it was like, here I am gone after, but there's sort of this legacy thing, and it was really neat to see that.
Pretty surreal. See, that's my work, because I
sandwich,
knew you at that time. Yeah,
that's my sandwich.
Yeah, we were excited for you. I was like, oh snap!
Yeah,
you got a sandwich named. In fact, I still haven't tried it. I got to go and get it.
I'll make it for you. How about that? How about just make it for you?
That's even better.
Right.
Oh, dude, we got to do that.
I'll just make you the El Rocco.
So going back to the corn in season, one thing I did want to ask you, because fitness, you've made a priority in your life. So as a chef,
I know where this is going.
Yeah, how important is the health factor as opposed to the taste? You know, growing up, I always felt, oh, a chef, they're all healthy. No. They're not all healthy like recipes. It's like, no, they taste good.
Right.
But you know, then as I've become older and just kind of more aware, it's like, no, some chefs, they specialize in the seasonal. That's very important to them because they want to focus on the healthy meals.
Right.
So when you kind of concoct these things, being that, you know, fitness and health is pretty important to you, how much does that play into when
you just opened up a humongous can of worms. So
Oh,
you
snap.
are going to get Kirk's philosophy on food right now.
I can just turn off my mic and let you go.
You ready?
All right.
Just hit mute. No, I'm joking. Okay, so I want you to think about it this way. In our country, we have access to so much food. Now, I don't want anyone out there to think that I'm saying that everyone has abundance of food, because I fully realize that there are people who go without. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that the potential for you to get it. Everything grows here, right? Everything is available in so many places. And then with the internet, I mean, you know, you can get anything you want. We have so much access to food. We also have a lot of access to information. Like, we are not having any shortage of like nutritional or fitness gurus, right? We also have an abundance of ways to exercise. You know, we have gyms and trainers and DVDs that you can buy. And living in Southern California, my God, we can go for a hike 365 days out of the year.
Pretty nice outside and still winter.
But yet, we are one of the most unhealthy and tormented societies when it comes to food. We eat like crap, and we torment ourselves about it. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of people that I watch making bad decisions, verbalizing that they're making bad decisions, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. And I'm regretting it.
Guilty.
I see it constantly. Here's my theory on it. While we have this sort of abundance in this country, there's something else that makes us a little unique, and that is we are very young. We've only been around for about 300 years, okay? You're talking about, in terms of the world, societies that have been around for thousands of years, okay? And in those thousands of years, they have gone through things that we have never faced. Okay, we've been in a few world wars, and we've had the Depression, and we've had some bad things, you know, happen here and there. Famine?
Still very young.
Famine? No. The plague? No. Complete, being completely decimated? No. You know, we've never struggled on that level. And we have this abundance of food. We're not a desert. We're not frozen tundra. Okay? So my point is this. We have come to a place where I think that we have become very conscienceless of food. And it's sort of a mindless thing for us. You're talking about societies where food is on their minds. Like even Europeans, and I got a lot of this from my father because my father lived through a war, so he was poor, had nothing, right? They went out, begging for food or scrounging for food, going through trash cans, going through fields that had been plowed to see if there was a leftover potato or an onion. That was dinner. So we were always very conscious about our food in our house, all right? And I think that Europeans who've been through this, or other countries who've been through this, even maybe that they're not like living that now, those generations, it's in their blood. It's in their blood. And what's happened is, in our society, we have allowed the outside world to infiltrate our meal times. In other countries, they do the opposite. This is our mealtime, get the F away.
So we've allowed outside.
Right. Well, listen, think about it. Think about the amount of people who have the TV on when they eat. Think about the amount of people who don't even eat at a table, who eat on a couch or in a car or at their desk or in front of a computer or while they're on their phone. Then think about the excuses. Remember how we said, how am I going to show up to 4 to 5 jiu-jitsu classes a week because I carved out time for it? Well, guess what? I also carve out time to make dinner. Because that's part of my accountability to be able to go to jiu-jitsu class that I still provided on that level.
So you say outside worlds as distractions.
Making excuses for taking these shortcuts that have become really unhealthy. Really, really unhealthy and expensive. And it's taken its toll. It's taken its toll on our taste buds. It's taken its toll on our waistlines. It's taken its toll all the way around. And what I'm saying to you is to answer your question is I've dedicated myself to a family dinner table. I've dedicated myself to it. That's where we're spending dinner. That's where we're going to eat. That's how we're going to eat. We're going to talk to each other. We're going to enjoy food that was prepared right there. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, are there nights where I go a little crazy and I have a little extra free time in my hand and all of a sudden it's like, wow, that looks like a Sunday dinner. Yeah, okay. But you know what? A lot of times it's getting it on the table really fast. And it's like I've developed a repertoire of really delicious, healthy things that I can do that with, that don't take me forever to do. Or if it does, I figure out ways, okay, you know what, I'll take this out in the morning and I'll prep that. That'll be ready. Or, you know what, Ty's going to get home early. I'm going to have her do that. And then when I get home, I'll finish that up or vice versa. We figure that out. We work together.
And that's great because she's into cooking as well, right?
She actually went to cooking school. She went to cooking school and she's also a certified chocolatier.
Does she ever look down on you? Like, you uneducated street vendor?
No, it's the opposite. She says to me, how come you didn't pay $60,000 to go to cooking school and you do that better than me, or that tastes better than I would? I was like, well, I don't know. It's like, I think I actually enjoy the process more. What she really enjoys, her strength, is that sort of the sweet side of thing, the chocolate making, the candy making, the baking, especially when it involves the babies.
She made the best little chocolate things for our
wedding, right?
Oh, right? Those things changed my life.
It's the best. She makes the best salted caramel I've ever tried.
Oh my God.
It's the best. It's the best.
That stuff was amazing.
And the thing is that that's her passion. When all of a sudden you talk about the kids, so not a holiday goes by where those kids aren't like making gingerbread houses or making Halloween cookies or decorating this or doing that. You think I got the patience for that? Are you kidding me? In the first 5 minutes, I'm because one of them's like throwing icing at the other one. Right. She's got that.
So you're secular. When you're in the zone, you just get out of my way.
Yes and no. It depends.
We've had this conversation.
It's the
before.
right balance. It's like I can be like that, and I do enjoy that because it's a way for me to decompress and be in my own head for a little bit. For someone to spend time with me in the kitchen, you kind of got to know me and how to work. And it does. I can work. I don't have to like shove you away, but it has to be a special relationship. If you're like a bull in a china shop, then it starts to. Right. It starts to rise. I will admit to that. But no, she sort of handles that aspect of it. Takes more of the lead on that, and then I'll take more of the lead on sort of the regular dinner making. So, but no, to answer your question, it's about focusing that time, and you'd be surprised at how much healthier your eating gets when you eliminate those distractions and you actually think about it. And then I utilize what I call the 85-15% rule,
Okay.
or 80-20, where 80% of the time I'm really mindful about, like, I want this to be like, I don't want too many starchy carbs here. I don't want the sugars here. I'm thinking on that level. The other 15% or 20% of the time, it ain't even a thought, bro. It's like, no, give me the full fat version. I want to, and the reason is that you have to allow yourself to do things with gusto. If you don't, you regret it. Because it's very easy to go out and eat a decadent meal and come back and go, oh my God, I spent too much money, or I ate too much, and I set myself back off my workout and whatever.
Right.
But if you go in going, this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to own it, and I'm going to enjoy every bite, and I'm going to walk away from that and knowing that that's going to be my experience, you'd be surprised how much less tempted you are to open that bag of chips and sit on the couch and devour it.
All right, and to that,
I don't need that anymore. I don't need that.
Well, yeah, and to that, kind of like your organizational skills, kind of you've always been wired that way. When it came to eating, was that the same thing, or did you have some obstacles? Did you have some demons to conquer to where you know what? I eat too much sugar. I got to wean myself off the sugar, or I eat too many potato chips. I got to wean myself. Were there any of those unhealthy habits that you ever had to wean yourself off of, or no? You kind of were always.
It's what's funny is I enjoy sweets, but I wouldn't say I have a sweet tooth.
Okay.
So that's an easy one for me.
Okay.
That's a real easy one where I can really keep that at bay and enjoy it when I want to enjoy it. The hard one for me is that salty, crunchy profile. You give me something that's crunchy and salty, oh God, that's where I can lose it. I can do some damage on a bag of chips or French fries or whatever
chips,
that falls into that. So yeah, and then also sort of understanding what makes you fat. Where it's like we've gone through so many different things. I remember when it was like the whole fat-free thing. It's like.
That had to drive you crazy, knowing what you know.
Yeah, well, at the time, though, that's what was being taught to you, so you sort of fell into it.
Okay.
But, just think about it this way. Ain't nobody ever got skinny off of drinking Diet Coke, and ain't nobody ever got fat eating full-fat yogurt. This hasn't happened, all right? Those people don't exist. You got thin for other reasons, and you got fat for other reasons. So
Great point.
So I think that it's moderation, even moderation in moderation, and it's understanding that if you start with whole foods, and I'm not talking the company or the brand, I'm talking about things that come out of the ground or things that are minimally processed. Even a piece of steak's been processed, or even even artisan cheese has been processed.
Right.
But, I'm a firm believer that while maybe you might not see it in like the numbers, in some of the numbers, I'm firmly believe that I'd rather have like a nice piece of like artisanal cheese than a slice of Velveeta. And I think that I'm doing something better for myself on some level. So I stick to whole foods. I would say that, there's always an abundance of vegetables, fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, good proteins, quality proteins.
What's a quality protein?
I like, first of all, I think it starts from the purveyor. I think that, you can find sort of anything, chicken, beef, fish, eggs, anything like that can be a quality protein if it's from a good purveyor.
Okay.
It's like, I'm less.
So when you eat seafood, do you try to go wild instead of farm raised and that?
Especially
that kind
with
of stuff?
certain things, with salmon for sure.
Okay.
With salmon for sure, that's a pretty nasty product. That farm raised salmon. I don't know if you know what they do to that, but it's like, salmon. Wild salmon gets its flavor from its fat, and the way it gets fat is that it goes to very cold areas and it eats, okay, and it gets its fat content, and that's where the deliciousness is. Farm raised salmon are salmon that are raised in pens that are just usually off the coast somewhere, and typically they're in areas that aren't cold enough for them to get the fat they need to be delicious. So they have to give them steroids, and that's how they get fat. In addition to that, salmon don't do well in close quarters. So they also have to give them antibiotics so that they don't get diseased. Then there's the kicker. Salmon gets its orange color because it eats krill. All right, which is, you know, you can buy krill oil now at Costco. It's very healthy, you know, omega-3, and it's got a red coloring to it, and that's what makes it the salmon orange. In a pin, it doesn't have krill, so if you were to cut open a salmon that was in a pin, it would be gray. Ain't nobody eating gray salmon, so they dye it orange. The coloring. Yeah. So now it's sort of this trifecta of just kind of awfulness. So that, and now I don't want to disparage all farm-raised fish, because some fish actually do better farm-raised, and I'll be clear about that.
Okay.
But salmon is not one of them.
Okay.
So that's why, yeah. So you know, it's having that sort of knowledge, understanding that kind of stuff, and then making right decisions. You know, it's like I can. Perfect example. I made short ribs the other night. I wanted something really decadent. Ty had a hard day. I was like, you know what? Let's eat like French people, okay? And let's have something really decadent. Let's make some short ribs, and we'll do it in like a red wine reduction, make it nice and beautiful. Now, the natural pairing for that would be something like some sort of luxurious like mashed potato puree. And you know, I really don't want to go that route. So you know what I did? Grabbed a couple heads of cauliflower. I steamed them. I threw it into a processor with a little bit of chicken stock, just a tiny bit of butter. It brought it all together, a little salt, pepper, a little bit of grated nutmeg. Guess what? You now got something that's really darn close to mashed potatoes, especially when you put like that reduced gravy over it. And here we are, and we're sitting there eating. The kids are eating it up. They're eating this ton of cauliflower.
I've learned that cauliflower is like a magic food.
It's
you can
delicious.
do so much to it. We just tried a cauliflower
Pizza
crusted
crust.
pizza.
Yeah, delicious. You can also rice it too.
Yeah, you know Ron from Atlanta.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he was telling me the other day he's into the cauliflower rice.
Yeah, and you know they're selling. Here's the funny thing: they're selling it. You can go to Trader Joe's. You can go to the market now. They're actually selling riced cauliflower. Okay.
I was looking for it yesterday at Trader Joe's.
Just go get some cauliflower. Do you have a food processor?
Yes.
Okay. Put it in the grater attachment, and then just start dropping cauliflower in.
Boom, cauliflower rice.
Yeah, you know, and then if it's not if not, you can always process it, put the blade back in, and then chop it up a little more. It'll get there.
Okay, so how do you prepare it? Same way as rice?
Well, what you want to do typically, I mean, you absolutely. I mean, you don't want to steam it and like you would rice. What you do at that point is get like a nice hot pan, throw some olive oil in it, throw it in there, and just saute it with some garlic, some salt and pepper.
So just fresh.
Absolutely. You can add any flavor profile. You want to add herbs or spices to it to give it, you know, a distinct flavor, go ahead. But you can make it just a little
cauliflower rice.
It's delicious.
I'm going to make cauliflower rice.
And what's nice then is you've just added a second vegetable to your meal that feels like you have this really starchy carb.
Yeah, the mashed potatoes is amazing.
Right.
I mean, other people claim that I could taste the difference. It's not the same. To me, it's negligible. If you didn't tell me, I would have been like, oh, it tastes good.
It's really close.
It's pretty close.
I know.
And some people do it really well. When I tried it, a little too watery. I mean, it was still good, but the texture, like Emila, she's a big texture hound, and she'll call me on, the texture's not there. And then she'll allow that to shape the rest of her opinion on it, where I get it. I understand. It tastes weird when you're eating something gooey that's not supposed to be gooey. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when I eat it, even if the texture's not right, I can still appreciate the taste. I'm like, oh, it's not there, but I could see.
You
where
probably
it's
just added a little too much liquid to it.
Yeah, that's usually the case.
Pull back the liquid a little bit, and then you'll get it where you want. You know, and then just rename it. Don't call it like like faux mashed potatoes. Call it like faux potato puree. And all of a sudden now it's like, okay, I'm eating more of a puree than I am a mash.
Right. Man, so that's see, to me that's fun when you start realizing that there are healthy options. And I think a lot of trouble that people have is, oh, it doesn't taste like. Well, yeah, it's not going to taste like. But back to what you were saying earlier is about how our palate has been so affected by the more accessible foods that we eat, which is the fast foods, the convenience store foods. So
I mean, think about it. Think about like back when, you know, before like industrialization, let's say. Mm-hmm. You know, when you wanted, all of these foods existed, things like butter and cheese and stuff. But to do it, sometimes you had to go to a store that just sold dairy. Mm-hmm. And then when you went, you had that butter. That was it. Now you go to the store and there's like 12 brands. Yeah, and, you know, there's
a lot of noise.
There's so much noise and so much like so many choices. It makes it very difficult unless you stay completely focused to what you're trying to do. And that's why I do carve out the time. Like there's sometimes that I do go to 2 different markets on a night on a weeknight to pick up what I want because that's what I want.
Right.
That's what I want.
So, to carving out time,
Okay.
you write for 2 shows, 2
Yeah.
very successful, high profile daytime shows.
Well, one's a juggernaut. One's a legitimate juggernaut. That's for
That's
sure.
been around for over 2 decades.
Yeah, we're on season 22.
Season 22.
That's like, I mean, you won't see that again.
No, the hot bench. That's kind of a new exploration, but it's not so new anymore.
We're going into our 5th season.
Yeah.
5th season. The show's doing very well. We just got renewed for our 5th season. Show's doing very well in the ratings.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it is actually created by Judge Judy herself. She created the show concept. And it's not unlike any other court show, except for the fact that instead of having 1 judge, there are 3. And so you have 3 judges who simultaneously hear your case.
It's like American Idol for judges.
Then, but what makes
Or
it a
The
little
Voice.
different, what makes it different is that then they go back into chambers and they fight it out.
Oh, really?
Yes, because they're coming from 3 different backgrounds, 3 different legal backgrounds, 3 different perspectives. They hear the case in their own way. They ask the questions they want to ask, and then they know and then it's 2 out of 3 win. So,
Oh, very
sometimes they're
interesting.
unanimous.
The judge gets voted off the island or out of the chamber.
Oh, it's great. And that's the best part of that show, to be honest with you, is to watch that deliberation.
Right.
Because then you're seeing, first of all, the different legal minds and where they're coming from.
Exactly. Amongst the legal
And
intellects.
who's going to win here? Is anyone going to budge? Is
Right.
anyone going to? And sometimes you
Right.
actually have a judge saying, I'm going to dissent. I'm out of this. You guys absolutely outvoted me, and we'll let you deliver the verdict. And I don't even want to speak to it because I completely disagree.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but that's kind of cool. So instead of coming in to get 1 judge's perspective, you're getting 3,
Right.
and you're getting a little bit more of it's more nuanced, I think, in some ways, because you're not coming from just one person's perspective,
So, jiu-jitsu practitioner who, as one of my students for a short time, held the record for one of the longest matches in Gracie Nationals history.
Do you remember that? Oh my God.
Do I?
That was epic.
I'm proud of that.
Because, I don't know if you remember how that day started, because, they stuck me initially in with adults. And at the time, I think I was like 45 years old. And all these guys were like 20 years old. And the way the Gracies were running it at that time was they were allowing people to weigh in the day before if you wanted. You could either weigh in mat side or you could weigh in the day before. Now, I'd always weighed in mat side. I'd never done a Gracie tournament. And I always weighed in mat side. Well, everybody who showed up for my bracket weighed in the night before. They cut weight and come in. And I'm like, these guys are all huge.
Right.
And they're all 20 years
runt
old.
of the litter.
And it was like, I lost like the first 2 matches and it was just this miserable thing. And they're like, wait a minute, we've got some people who are some late ads and they're your size, your age. Do you want to fight them? And I'd already fought like 2 matches and just got my ass handed to me. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I got to do this. I'm not leaving here. And it was that gold medal match, which because of the fact that it's submission only, there's no time limit on it. And that sounds good in theory.
Until you're in minute 45.
Holy God. It was.
Just let's paint some context. You were a white belt at the time.
Yeah, white belt.
On average, the IBJJF, which is the largest organization in the world, but the average match length or length of a match for a white belt is 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. So fast forward to Gracie Nationals. Gracies, they don't play.
And the rules that they set forth for the Gracies were, for blue and up, it was, for purple and up, I think it was unlimited. But for white and blue, I think they put 8 minutes.
No,
it was
I
8
think
minutes for
it's
submission only.
until the finals.
Until the finals, because then you need a winner.
Right.
Then you need a winner. So here I am in the finals.
Unlimited.
Here I am in the finals, and we go at it. And I knew
you were still spazzy, Kirk.
Yeah. Oh, God.
So there's high energy output.
I spazzed out for 51 minutes.
That's right.
I can remember. Okay, so I remember we got to the 15-minute mark, and I'm like, oh my God, I am so tired. And I'm like, he stood us up a couple times, and I remember being in like a clinch with the guy, thinking, I wonder if I can cut him a deal. Like, you want to both just like
let's do a silent agreement handshake kind of
right. How do you want this thing to end? We're 15 minutes in at this point.
It's like there's no purse money.
But right.
It's not like you're winning $50,000.
But there's pride. There's pride. And there's no way I'm walking away from this like saying that I gave up because of that.
Right.
And then flash forward from 15 minutes to about minute 44 was a blur. Like I remember very little of that. what I remember is having the dude in side control up against like on the one perimeter of the mat. And I hear one guy who's like standing on the sidelines watching, because people started congregating at this point. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen that many people watch a white belt match.
Right.
And they're congregating, and I hear one of the guys say, these dudes have been fighting for 44 minutes. And I got him in side control, and I look up and I go, really? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm still in the middle of this. I'm 44 minutes.
Right.
You got to be kidding me. And
At
then
45 years old, around at the time, right?
I mean, and then at minute 51, I ended it with an armbar, which was like, whoa. I mean, I just remember that being such an amazing moment, because you go from like, is this ever going to end, to, yeah, it ended, and it ended exactly how I wanted it to end. And, was the armbar technically amazing? Hell no. I think I just wore his ass out. I think he was just like, all right,
Whatever.
You got this. But whatever, right?
Count it, right. So going back to compartmentalizing, so you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner / competitor. Well, I don't know. Have you competed recently or not?
It's
really?
been a couple years, but it's
Okay.
only because, I kind of feel, for me to compete, I really like to dedicate myself mentally.
Right.
And I think with everything else that you're about to speak of that I've got going on, it's really hard to do that.
Right.
And competing isn't important enough to sacrifice that other
Right.
stuff. I've got a
Because
family.
again, going to your mindset, it takes commitment.
Absolutely.
And that's true. It takes a commitment. And I think a lot of people who don't compete, they don't realize how much it takes out
That's
of you.
not to say that my competing days are over.
Right.
That's not to say that at all.
Just it's
It's
not
just
the
that
time.
right now, it's just not
the
the right time. Right.
So, jiu-jitsu competitor of the past, but still on hold. Could be on the horizon.
I still train like I'm competing.
Yeah, a training. So you're jiu-jitsu practitioner for sure. You're writing for Judge Judy, Hot Bench, two daytime juggernauts, as you stated. But then also your passion project of cooking. You host a couple cooking shows.
Yes,
two
I do.
of them, right?
I do, two of them.
Two of them. It's like you do things in twos.
I know.
Jiu-jitsu practitioner, competitor.
I know.
Daytime writing, Judge Judy, Hot Bench.
Only
and
one
now-
fiancé, though. One fiancé.
That's what I was working up to.
No, you don't.
Okay, I got to give her a call for confirmation. Then
please,
she wanted me to ask you
She's
this.
gonna see this. See this.
Right.
No, those shows, they're done locally in the South Bay, out of Torrance. They're the cable, their Office of Cable Communications in Torrance. I technically work for the city.
And now you're in front of the camera on this one.
Yes, I host two shows. One is called Community Cooking. The other is called Taste of Torrance. So Community Cooking is a studio show where we have a guest chef come in, and they come in with the menu that they want to prepare, and we basically cook together for a half hour. Taste of Torrance is sort of the Torrance, California's version of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives.
Okay.
But not relegated to Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. They're
Right.
restaurants and...
And I saw you go out shopping at a food fair or something like that.
That was one of the episodes of Community Cooking that we kind of switched it
Community
up a little
Cooking,
bit. We
okay.
shopped at the farmer's market, and then we went back to a local business. It was a lady who teaches cooking classes. We went to her classroom, and we cooked together.
So you give love to the community around
Without
there,
a doubt.
some of
And
the
actually,
mom and pop
we are
shops.
actually supported largely by the Torrance Farmers Market. And I got to tell you something. If you want to go to a really good farmer's market, go to the Torrance Farmers Market. I believe it's Tuesdays and Saturdays. Tuesdays for sure. That's when I've usually gone. But you can check, just do a Google search for that. You'll find that no problem. It's a really comprehensive farmer's market. And what I found out, it's like they're like the fifth largest farmers market, like in California or something. I mean, it's just a really big farmers market.
Really?
And pretty awesome. Yeah, we.
Well, the South Bay is they seem to be very health conscious. I mean, it's a beach area.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
and
And
then
then-
California as a whole.
And then how about it's also the Mecca for martial arts.
Well, you know this.
It's the Mecca for
Well, at
martial
least
arts. I mean, you
jiu-jitsu.
can't throw a rock in the air without coming down on a jiu-jitsu or taekwondo
That's right.
studio, right?
That's right, yeah.
That's how that is down there.
So they seem to be generally a very health conscious area.
Right.
So it seems like they would have a farmer's market of that
Yeah,
level.
so we are very much we only go to restaurants within Torrance, and we utilize chefs around the community. That's a little bit broader, but we definitely, a lot of the food that they bring to us, we sort of try to get them to go to that Torrance Farmers Market and check that out.
Now, do you get to guide where you want that? Do you have like a hand in the pot as far as what we're cooking today, what we're going to cover, or they pretty much lay it out for you? You show up and you
Yeah, that's kind of the best part because I spend my waking moments producing. It's kind of nice to sort of like lay off that. I mean, that's not to say that I don't have input or don't bring certain things to the table, but typically they will book the guest, and my producer, who's great, she'll set up the menu so I'll know what they're making. And then what I do is the legwork that I'll put into it is if it's someone that I haven't worked with before, I'll do a little research on them. Figure out where they're from, where they came from, what they do, so that I have some stuff to talk about. And then when we get there, I just sort of drive the ship. It's like let's see where this goes. And let's make some food.
By the way, before you came onto this podcast, I did no research on you. This is cold convo.
I didn't need you to.
That's right.
I brought my A game. I'm a pro.
Community cooking. Is that where you met Ty?
It is.
It is, right?
So that's a funny story.
Your current fiance.
My current fiance. And it's so weird because it's like I had been doing the show for several years and never dated anybody that had been on or anything, that had never been a situation, right? So prior to her coming on, we had not known each other. And I usually get a list of the people who are coming on and their menu and stuff. And I'd gotten that earlier in the week. And it was a Saturday night. I was going to be taping on a Sunday, and I was actually at our friend Victoria's house, and it was the whole crew there. The whole Old Warriors Club was there. We're watching UFC. And at one point, I'm on my phone. I'm checking my Facebook, and I get this friend request from this woman, and I'm like, why do I know that name? That name sounds so familiar. And I'm like, looking at the thumbnail, I'm like, it's hot. Like, who is this person? And I don't know if it's a Russian bot or what.
Yeah, I remember you took it and you went, hey guys, check this chick out. Showing and pet. No,
that didn't happen. So no, what I did though was I was like, wait a minute, I think I know who it is. I think it's one of my chefs. And I went and I checked the email, and sure enough, that's the person who this is. I'm like, okay, I'll accept the friend request. And I sent a message along with my acceptance. I said, hey, I'm really looking forward to working with you tomorrow. Something witty and funny and charming. And that was that.
Obviously.
Well, she was still online, so she sent me a message back. So we sort of developed this rapport a little bit, but it was pretty innocuous, nothing crazy, no hardcore flirting or anything like that. And I'm sitting there, and I got done with the conversation, and I just was overcome with this bizarre feeling. And good old Kevin looks at me and goes, what's going on with you? And I'm like...
Then this is the same Kevin Baker from the earlier stories. Like, hey, man, come on.
Right. And I'm trying to explain in the story. He's like, okay, whatever. He's like, I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm like, I'm sort of like overcome with this feeling like I'm going to know this person for like a really long time.
You're drawn.
There was something there. And... I was like, okay, don't be crazy. That sounds like stalkerish, weird.
Hey, man, in all honesty, now when I look at that episode that you and Tyron, knowing how that story ends, that you guys end up together and everything, I just keep looking at you, dirty perv.
I know, right?
You dirty perv.
And she showed up that day, and I knew it as soon as. What was funny was she walked into studio while I was doing another show, because we tape multiple shows in a day, and I was doing another show, and from the second she walked in the door, I knew she was in that room. I knew she was there, and I was like, time to put it on. Time to bring your A game, Kirk. And no, we just connected. We just connected immediately. It was something that we still have that sort of that strange rapport where there are times where I truly don't think that there's another person who would get the joke that I just told.
You guys are great together. I mean, I love watching you two interact. You posted a couple just random Facebook videos that are just
together. Yeah,
I find they're a little bizarre and weird, but I love them. I think that's part of our bond. We get each other's humor. But the first time I met her, you actually brought her to jiu-jitsu. You guys are very in touch with each other's interests.
Yeah.
And she's into fitness herself.
Yeah.
She likes to run. Running is like her thing.
Right.
But then
she
took a swing at jiu-jitsu.
She's sort of naturally athletic. Yeah. She's got a real natural athletic ability. And you know
strong.
What?
Jesus.
She's tough.
She's strong.
And she's tough too. You got to really knock her out to she is tough. She will not back down. She will not like that. I mean, she's wired to compete like that. But yet when you talk to her, you don't get that sense at all.
Yeah, like she's not always standoffish, always looking for a fight.
She's perfectly happy, and she'll tell you this. She's perfectly happy, baking brownies with an apron. and with a baby in her arm. I mean, that's kind of how she's perfectly happy. But all of a sudden, you put her in that mindset and put on a pair of like MMA gloves, or you put on a jiu-jitsu gi, and it's like, then it gets
She's ready
real.
to work, yeah.
It gets real,
Yeah.
right?
She seems natural in it. Like, it's not like she's trying to connect with you or anything. No. That seems like very much a part of her personality.
Well, her father put her into boxing when she was like 16. So she started boxing when she was like 16.
Okay.
You know, I mean, and she's always played sports. I mean, you know, she played basketball. She ran track. I mean, you know, she's
Does
always.
she still roll?
Not as much.
Not as much.
Not as much. I think a little bit. You know, she became a nurse. And that took.
Okay.
What happened was, she went back to school.
Yeah, she was in school last time I remember.
For several years, and that was a big change of career for her. So I think that sort of was something that kind of once again, priorities, commitments, and what you're going to do. But yeah, I mean, we still exercise, so it's not like that's gone away. But rolling just not quite as much. That said, there are times where it'll be like,
Settle
come out on, because we have mats at the house. We've done that.
That's right.
We've matted up the garage. So there will be times where we'll bring it out there, and I'll kind of have to show her a new move, or we'll just kind of let off some steam and have a little fun.
Sure.
But it's not as formal as it once was.
So wrapping everything up here, community cooking community cooking. I always get
and
confused
Taste of Torrance. If you you can find those episodes on YouTube.
They're online.
on YouTube.
They're online
absolutely.
now. So that's the good thing about going back to our technology conversations. Like, we're not so contained geographically speaking.
If you live in the South Bay, and you'll catch it on Torrance cable channel, City Cable channel 3, and then. If you have a digital antenna, I believe it's 25.2, and if you have FiOS, I think it's like channel 32. They do have, the program is shown other places.
I think the play here is just go on YouTube.
Yeah.
For both of them, right?
Yeah.
So what are the name of the shows?
Taste of Torrance and Community Cooking.
Now, can they interact with you through those?
Sure, you could always put something on the send a message or something. I think it's typically people who don't, who want to watch it, who maybe have missed it. But although some of those shows they run them multiple times a day, like it's so funny. Like it took a while. And I think that the handlebar mustache helped, but it's gotten to a point where every once in a while I get recognized, and Chai just laughs at me because it's like the greatest thing in the world.
Right. You still get giddy about it.
Oh, I absolutely do.
Right.
I absolutely do. The first time it happened, we were down in Torrance at Alpine Village. And I don't know if you're familiar with Alpine Village.
Right off 405.
See, I grew up going there as a German American. My mom took us there quite a bit to do a lot of shopping. And we were down there in the market doing some shopping. This German lady, Ty was in the other end of the market. And this German lady walks up, she goes, "Excuse me." She goes, "Do you do a show on gay?" And all of a sudden, I'm just like lighting up, and I put my arm around this lady, and Ty's on the other end of the market, and she comes walking down the aisle. I go, "Ty," and we talked about this moment. We had talked about the moment, the first time I'd ever get recognized, and she goes, "Yeah, you're probably gonna be like an idiot about it, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, probably." I'm like, "Ty," I go, "She recognized me," and from a couple aisles away, she looks at me, she goes, "Act like it's happened before," and she keeps walking.
Oh, burn. Burn.
It was just our little moment. Our little moment that was a joke that was funny for us.
So cool. So support our man Kirk Leins here by going to YouTube, Community Kitchen. I always get it confused.
Taste of Torrance, Community Cooking,
and Taste of Torrance.
Watch Judge Judy, watch Hot Bench.
That's right.
You can always hit me up on Facebook, Kirk Leins.
And that's L-I-E.
L-E-I.
Or L-E-I.
Yeah. Yeah, hit me up on Facebook. And you never know if you're in the Burbank area and feel like if you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner and you want to roll.
That's right. That's right.
Come on by.
Shoot a little Facebook message.
Yeah, for sure.
Right on, Kirky.
All right, we've been here forever. Thanks, brother. Good seeing you, man.
All right, you too.
All right.
All right, peace.